we can tell you from our data there are 3 different tiers of pay within the UAE and within other markets. There is an Eastern expatriate rate, there is a Western expatriate rate, and there is a national rate, okay? Now when people start talking about equality, what tends to be driving this now is changes to the systematic way people look at how pay is managed and governed, okay? Because what's happened is people here have been paid far too long for how long they've been sitting in the seat. If you've been here for 10 years, you get paid more. Why? If you're sitting in a job where you haven't moved ahead for 10 years and you're doing exactly the same thing, why should you get a pay rise every year? There is a secretarial limit for what we will pay our administrators. It doesn't matter that you've been here for 15 years and you know everybody, okay? My worst example is I went to meet an HR director in a government company in Saudi Arabia where I said, what's the problem? He said, the guy outside the door who answered the phone and brought in the tea and biscuits gets paid more than me. I went, what? He said, yeah, true. He'd been there for 20 years. He was a secretary. Every year he'd moved through a pay scale. This is one of those companies with 24 different grades and absolutely no way to understand what people were doing. What we see all the time is people, what's your job title? Well, I'm the Office Supreme Commander, which actually translates to an admin officer, okay? So if you don't have the basics right about how your pay structure works, then you're gonna leave yourself open to all of these problems and challenges, and people creating themselves bigger job titles or everything being linked to service and how long you've been in the job, rather than what it should be linked to, which is how much you're actually contributing to the firm, okay? So what have we seen? Well, following trends, you know, what we see is at the sort of bottom end of the scale, okay? What we see is the sort of the difference in terms of pay differential, okay? You know, we would see that at the delivery end, you'll find that people who are actually doing things, we see it range creep, we call it, grade creep. So you've got 7 people doing exactly the same job in 7 different grades, and a 70% pay differential between the lowest paid and the highest paid, and nobody can justify it. It's just the last man in, last lady in, gets paid the least. And someday they might catch up, but they won't, because what happens is nobody differentiates in pay rises based on performance. So if you give somebody who's earning $100 a month and somebody who's earning $50 a month a 5% pay rise, you just increase the gap, okay? So again, companies are getting a little bit cleverer on this. So when we talk about pay equity, what we're trying to do is work out a system that will help companies think through how they should fix this. And why is this really important? Well, you should be running a good business anyway, but there are different parts of the organization that won't put up with it, okay? So the millennials, everybody who's got an HR dictionary will find a whole chapter on what you need to do to pander to these guys. Why is it important here? The demographics of the GCC are different to all of the countries that we might have come from, okay? The young people, what they are going to desire is the most important thing in the HR agenda, simply because you've got 70% of the working population under the age of 30. Get it right for these guys and your company will succeed. So you do need to pander to them, you do need to have a strategy for them. So what do? You know, why do we pander them to? Well, local demographics under 30, absolutely the most important one to recruit from. There are a small number of people who are actually very talented, and they're the ones you want to get, and unless you're offering them something different, you won't have it. You won't get them. They don't have this job for life mentality, okay? They're quite happy to leave you after 18 months and go somewhere else where they think their opportunity will be better, okay? They're much better at what they're doing around the digital workforce, okay? They're cost effective, it doesn't keep that much to keep them happy, and they want and need and crave to be told they're doing a good job. If you're not doing that, they'll leave and find somebody else who can do it for them. Identify with the brand. Everybody who's now got a corporate social responsibility officer, the millennials are the reason why. Because they want to actually be happy to go and tell their friends who they work for, okay? And they're flexible, but the bottom point there, they're more flexible, ask what they want.